Life. It's very amusing to realize that every millisecond, millions of organisms respire, excrete, reproduce, and struggle for a survival. But sometimes we just don't realize that we too are a part of this living world. Presenting before you, Vita, Intorno, and Inside. This is a documentary that will brief you about everything we did for the Earthian program. Our story starts from our hometown, Bhopal, a city pretty rich in biodiversity, and this is our school, which also supports various organisms in its small but beautiful gardens. Environment as a shared space. We found various organisms dependent on others for their survival. We found this mourning dove incubating its eggs on a tree. Similarly, the beetle in this picture is being supported by the water lilies. It was amazing to realize that a simple tree supports so many organisms. We even saw many other organisms who were extracting a lot from the environment around them. We found a yellow garden spider on a tree in our school garden. On much intensive research, we found that this spider tends to form its web in the shape of the letter X and tends to rest its legs in alignment to the X. Biodiversity among leaves. Before this project, we never noticed the variety of leaves surrounding us. But when we noticed it, it was vast. Some had hairy projection on their edges. Some were prickly at the tip, whereas some were prickly throughout. Some were broad, some were sleek. Some had waxy coatings on them, and some were sticky. And the list never ends. Leaf munchers. In this activity, we dug out a pit, filled it with various kinds of leaves, and then observed it for 6 weeks. Measured various parameters, dug it out, put it back again, and observed it further. At last, we took the reading of the final compost and concluded. It was wonderful to observe the activity of decomposers so closely. Changes in the environment. Do our activities affect the environment in any way? This activity was an eye-opener. Our visit to the lakes of our city made us realize that the sewage that was being dumped into the lakes had a catastrophic effect on the aquatic life. The aquatic life was diminishing because of the high rate of intoxication caused. But the future seems bright. Our government is taking initial steps towards cleaning the water body by various physical and chemical processes. Card game. This activity was fun as well as informative. The group members sat down together for a game of cards. Although it was pretty tough, but it was fun. This activity was about transforming a hobby into a learning process. We observed the aquarium for about 4 weeks and realized how an aquatic ecosystem looks like in a small bowl. We first introduced some wild fishes from a nearby pond. And then, to make it even more interesting, we introduced some ornamental fishes like widow tetras, black molly, and a couple more. The wild fishes were eaten by the widow tetras. The remains of the fishes were cleaned up by the sucker catfish. It was a scintillating journey from the biodiversity in the neighborhood to the vast forests of Chirico, exploring organisms, then the plants, then their leaves, which brought us to our second activity, biodiversity in leaves, in which we, after exploring various relationships leaves have with organisms, tried to turn the same into useful compost in leaf munchers. We then summarized our journey and tested our knowledge through the card game, and decided to design our own aquatic ecosystem. and finally wrote a report to relate biodiversity to burning issues like food security, conservation, and genetic modification. And in this way, we experienced the life around us.